Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining my breakout room. As you can see by the title, we are going to be talking about spring cleaning and getting your death pile or profit pile, as that was a new term to me, going to get it listed. So I am someone that loves to know the direction that we're going. So I'm going to share a little overview with you. So to start, I'm going to share some about me, a little bit more than what you guys got in that interview. We are going to define a death pile if you have no idea what that is. I have some tips to share with you. So we have 5 tips, and then we are going to have some Q&A time at the end. First off, hi again, I guess. I am Kendall. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I currently reside outside of Charlotte, North Carolina with my husband and our 2 cats. I got my bachelor's degree in communication studies and my master's in communication theory and research, both from WVU. So if there's any other WVU fans here, go ears. And I think some people shared in the beginning where they were coming in from. So pop that in the chat because I'm curious. I saw a Raleigh, I already saw a Pittsburgh. So if we have any WVU alum too, that would be cool. St. Louis, Knoxville, New York, Greensboro, that's close. Florida, Seattle, New Jersey, Kansas, this is really fast. Canada, Iowa, Anaheim, oh my gosh, Philly, Monroeville, Arizona. Okay, wow, so many people. Family went to WVU, yay, love that. I see a lot of WVU people here in North Carolina, a lot. So anyway, I started my reselling journey part-time in December of 2022, and I went full-time 6 months later in May of 2023. I'm really passionate about thrifting, reselling, and helping fellow resellers, as I am a beginner as well. I love teaching and sharing what I learn as I go. So that is just a little bit about me, and I'm really excited to share some tips with you all. So let's move on. So first, like I mentioned, let's define what a death pile is. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with what this is, a death pile or a profit pile. But according to Urban Dictionary, it is a collection of unlisted inventory that has accumulated by a reseller. So let's share in the chat what your pile is sitting at. So maybe you can't see it, maybe it's not in front of you, but what is it? What is a good estimate of how many things are in your death pile? Death garage, wow. Whole room, half of an office. Hundreds, 40, 50, a lot. 150, a lot. 600, 1,000, every room in the house, 5,000. Oh my gosh, you guys just have a whole house for just your death pile, is what it sounds like. 2 totes worth, 1,500, 600, too much, 500. Death kid went to college room. 6 totes, 3 million, 3 million. All right, well, you may have heard of a death pile also be referred to as a profit pile now, or a money pile, because in reality, that is what it is. I'm glad that some of you feel better now seeing other people's numbers. But for today's presentation, I'm going to share with you 5 tips that you can use to hopefully eliminate this pile. All right, so first up is tip number 1, which I have liked to eloquently call chunk it out. And this is a tip that I use in many areas of my reselling business. The act of chunking is simply taking something large, breaking it into smaller pieces or chunks. And you can do this in 2 different ways. So 1 is going to be by time, and 2 is going to be by item. So time chunking is going to be when you do a task for a certain amount of time. This can look like turning your phone on Do Not Disturb, setting a timer on your phone for 25 minutes, and getting as much done as you can. It's important to limit distractions during this time so you aren't constantly shifting your focus away from the task at hand, which is to get your pile listed. 25 minutes is known to be that sweet spot for task chunking, as it allows your brain to fully focus on the task at hand. So set a timer for 25 minutes and then a 5-minute break afterward, because we all need a break, and see how you do. If you realize that 25 minutes is too quick and you feel like you aren't getting much done, then assess, and maybe if there are any other distractions in your place, try to get rid of those or bump up your time. So it might be trial and error before you find what works for you, and that's fine. The other way is to do it by item count. So this is the method that I do most often because I have found that it works best for me. I'm also someone, like I mentioned in the interview, that I love to schedule my listings. So it is a feature on eBay. It's one of my favorite. So since I like to schedule listings, I like to list 10 things a day. So I will look at my pile, pull out the amount of things that I need to get the amount of days that I want done. So I'll grab 10 to 20 items, I'll photograph them, I'll list them, I'll draft them, or whatever I need to do, and then I will inventory them. So those are two different methods that you can try out and see how those work for you. So let's move on to tip number 2. My biggest problem is it gets boring. I've got a tip for you, just you wait. Okay, moving on to tip number 2 is a 2-parter. So we have be consistent and set SMART goals. Being consistent needs very little explanation, but I'm still going to give some. So if you are a new reseller or you're doing this for a while, you know the key to success in this business is to be consistent. If you want to get ahead and you want to see steady sales, you need to be consistent with all of your processes. Not only will being consistent will help you work through your pile, but the algorithm will like your consistency and you may start to see more sales come through. That can be all in my head, but I do believe that the more consistent I am and the more regularly I am posting, the more offers and the more sales I see come my way. So whether it's fact or fiction, just be consistent because it is important. Consistency is dedicating yourself to your goals and doing what you need to achieve them. So very few of us set out to accomplish something big and do it the first go around. We must be consistent and continue showing up and putting in the work day after day to eventually be able to look back weeks, months, years later and see how far we've come. So in order to be consistent and to flex this muscle, we must set goals for ourselves and for our business. I am a huge goal-oriented person. And like I mentioned, prior to being a reseller, I worked at Lululemon and I actually led our store's vision and goals because it is so important to me and I'm very passionate about it. So you don't want to set and forget your goals, but instead set them and share them with others around you. It might motivate you, it might motivate your peers, and it will help you accomplish them because you now have people to hold you accountable. If you'd rather keep your goals close to your chest and share them when you accomplish them, that's fine too, but make sure that you are figuring out the best way to hold yourself accountable each day, whether that's time blocking your day in your planner to get things done, setting alarms on your phone, or using a whiteboard to share with your partner or roommate what your day will look like. I personally do the whiteboard method. My husband is a remote worker, so he works right next door, and I like to share on a whiteboard what my day looks like, mainly so that he can stay out of my office and leave me alone. So I share that with him so that we can be on the same page. So let's talk about SMART goals and what that stands for. So SMART is specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. So you want your goals to be specific, concrete, and tangible. So for example, so on the right side is going to be my example. For example, my goal is to get my whole death pile listed by end of day Friday. So we know what the objective is, and the goal is specific, and we know by end of day Friday whether or not we actually hit that goal. Moving on to measurable, you want to be able to gauge your progress with certain measures of success. So for example, I'm going to photograph 20 things from my death pile. It's specific, it's measurable. If you photograph 20 things from your death pile, you know you were successful. Next up, and in my opinion, the most important to really getting your death pile tackled is setting a goal that is achievable and realistic, yet challenging. You don't want to set a goal that is way too outlandish and far-fetched that you are left feeling overwhelmed and even more stressed. And you don't want to create a goal that is too easy to the point that you aren't being challenged. And in the end, the goal could take you twice as long to accomplish. So assess yourself, do some introspection work to determine what that will look like for you. Because again, you don't want to be now stressed out about your death pile and your death pile goal. So figure out what works for you. So for example, photographing 20 things instead of my daily 10 will push me but not overwhelm me. So figure out what that will look like for you. Next up is assessing how connected your goal is to the overall objective. The objective is to get your death pile listed by end of day Friday with your sub goal of photographing, or will your sub goal of photographing 20 things help you get to your objective? Yes. So for example, knocking out 20 things will help me get closer to my goal of completing my death pile by Friday. Lastly is the deadline to complete the goal. This sort of brings the initial goal full circle, and in the example, the deadline is end of day Friday. So before we move on to the next tip, I just want to touch on consistency one more time, and then we will move on. When you are determining your goal or what your consistent is, make sure that you are picking something that is sustainable for you. So whether that is 10, 15, 50, figure it out and do what you can comfortably do and be consistent at, and then just be the best at it. So you don't have to do this very overwhelming goal that you maybe see other resellers do. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Pick what works for you and just crush it. All right, we are moving on. All right. Sorry, I've got so many screens going on right now. Okay, cleaning up your mess. So this tip has to do more with your surrounding area than your actual death pile, but I promise you it will help. Our brains like order, and if we're in a constant state of disarray, we struggle to get anything done. When we clear the clutter, we're able to focus better and work more productively. If there are constant distractions taking your focus away from what you need to work on, you can end your day feeling overwhelmed and unproductive. As we speak, my cat is currently trying to open up my door, so we've got a distraction. But they're meowing now. Think about how much better you feel when you clean up your kitchen or your bathroom, or for me personally, that chair in my bedroom that just houses all of my clothes that I don't want to put away. I know when I clean that up, I feel lighter, I feel more energized. And when my space is clean, that is how you want to feel in your office or wherever you have your workspace. So clean up the clutter. I personally have a bad habit of jumping into things before taking a second to look back and look at the bigger picture. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't care about my messy room, I need to get my pile listed, I hear you. But I promise you, if you pick up around you, you will feel clearer and more motivated to keep that momentum going and start actually tackling your death pile. I love the meows in the comments. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I use all of these tips all of the time in my life and in my reselling business, and they can be stacked and meshed together any way that you like. So for cleaning up your space, utilize tip number 1 of chunking it out to set smaller, more manageable goals if you're feeling like your messy room is just as overwhelming as your death pile. So set a timer for 25 minutes, clean as much as you can, or choose an area of your space and clean it up to completion, and do whatever is necessary to bring the life back into your area. A study actually found that the effects of clutter left individuals feeling overwhelmed and more likely to procrastinate. So if you decided to join this breakout session, then chances are you have a death pile that you are overwhelmed by and are procrastinating. So before jumping into that pile, take a look at the space around you and see if there's any work that can be done there first. Not only does clutter impact your ability to work and get stuff done, but it also impacts our mental health and can leave us feeling stressed, anxious, or depressed. So when being a reseller and working for yourself, you may get stressed with all of the work that needs to get done. So do yourself a favor and spend your Sunday night cleaning up your space so that you can set yourself up for success on Monday. Okay, let's move on to tip number 4. All right. This tip My cat is really trying to get in. Luckily, I locked the door. This tip can work in tandem with you cleaning up your space because we also need to clean up our pile. So if you have your death pile near you, take a look at it. If not, just envision it. This pile once had pieces that you were excited about, pieces that you had every intention to photograph and list, but then life happened and it now sits in a pile waiting for you. Maybe I'll let the cat in here soon because he's breaking down the door. And then you go thrifting again and you find even more stuff that get added to your pile and the cycle repeats. I get it. I love the part of being a reseller and the shopping that goes with it. I love the excitement I get from finding something that has been on my Bolo brand list for a while, but instead of going home and photographing it, I go shopping again because I had such good luck. So I'm bound to have more good luck, and I find more and more and more. And soon my pile is up to my eyeballs and I can't even remember what was in it. Trust me, I've been there, but in order to tackle that pile, we must go through it again and say hello to our old friends. We must assess our pile and determine next steps for it. So you can create whatever smaller piles make most sense for you and your business, but I've included some examples of possible piles you could create, and those are a stain treat pile, a buy, sell, trade, or BST pile, and then a donate pile. So you can also add a photograph pile if you go through and know you want to keep it and it doesn't need to be stain treated. You can come up with that in whatever piles you want. Once you have these smaller piles, you will want to make sure that those smaller piles don't just sit in a garage or a trunk of a car, but you see those through to completion. This is advice that I need to take myself. So if this is resonating with you, I'm right there with you. Get that laundry started, take those items to Plato's Closet, and drop off that bag at Goodwill. Since these tips can be meshed together, you can set a SMART goal for yourself to work through your pile to completion and get what needs to be done by end of week. When going through your pile, remember to do research, check comps, and see whether or not an item is worth keeping or moving on from. We've all purchased things that maybe we were excited about, and then as we dove deeper, we realized it was a bad buy, and that's okay. We're human. Don't let a mistake sit in a pile because you're beating yourself up about it. Assess, move on, and do better the next time. Let's move on to the final tip. A Bolo is a be on the lookout brand. So a brand that you want to find at the thrift store that sells well is a Bolo. Moving on to my favorite tip, number 5, pair it with something you enjoy. So this is my absolute favorite. And for whoever mentioned in the beginning that it's boring, here, this is something that you can tie with the parts that you don't like. So this is how I got over my dislike for photographing, and it's now part of the job that I thoroughly enjoy. And it's to pair something that you dislike with something that you do like. This is also known as temptation bundling, and the secret here is to pair that thing that you don't like with something that is complementary and not distracting, like photographing and listening to a podcast or listing items while listening to a playlist. We all have aspects of reselling that we maybe don't like that much. Like I mentioned, I did not like photographing. I'd put it off and put it off until I had a mound of a death pile and I had to get it done. So I now will listen to an audiobook while I photograph, and it has been life-changing. I now look forward to photographing so I can turn on my book and tune out the world. This can be trial and error, and while you discover what works best for you and what keeps you entertained and not distracted, we don't want to put on a show and only watch the show for 30 minutes and not do the task, because I have done that and I realized that does not work for me. So try out a podcast, see how you do, or put on your favorite TV show and see if you can balance the two, but figure out what works for you and do it. If you are needing recommendations, I personally love the Skinny Confidential podcast and or thriller audiobooks. I use the Libby app. If you don't have it, download it because it's amazing. Share in the comments. I think some people already were, but share what maybe you listen to, what YouTube channel you watch, what playlist you listen to, and let's get some playing the song I Want to Be Rich, just on repeat. Headphones and music, Netflix, rewatch a movie. That's a good one. Just throw on a no-brainer. You've already seen it. Pandora. Oh, I feel like I haven't used Pandora in so long. Can't listen to something I won't pay attention to. YouTube classical music. I do like classical music. I used to use that when I was studying. Hustle couple on YouTube. Sing to my kitties. I keep my kitties out of my office. All right. So find that piece of media that allows you to escape from reality just enough so that you can get through the task that you don't like. Temptation bundling works best if you do the fun task only when you do the not so fun task. So this will make you feel more motivated to get the task done, and it can even have you looking forward to the next time that you get to do that task so you can catch up on that book or podcast. Try it out, see if it improves your productivity. All right, we've reached the end of the presentation, but I want to leave you with this quote by Roald Dahl, and it is, "If you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams, and you will always look lovely." I share this because I want to remind you all that, yes, reselling has its ups and downs. We have great sales, and then we have returns. It happens. One thing is constant, though, and that is how you show up every day and what attitude you choose to have. We get to do this job, and we get to find amazing things at the thrift store or wherever you shop, and we get to have a money pile that is just waiting to be tackled. So this is just your reminder to be grateful for your job, that you get to do this for a living or as a part-time side hustle. I'm going to get off my soapbox. Thank you all so much for joining me. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed sharing my tips with you, and we still have some time so we can do some Q&A if you have any questions. I don't know if they're just in the, okay, in the Q&A portion. Okay. I'm just going to answer some. Okay, how long do you keep death pile items listed before you give up on it and just donate it or dispose? I would say that this might be circling back to the assessing your pile. So I would go through your death pile and see what needs to be assessed and make the decisions and then move on from it there. Okay, I lost the, yeah, so I would assess. I don't know necessarily a time limit, but I would take a look at your pile, make it into smaller piles, and then do what you need to with those piles. Hi, Kendall. Thanks for doing this. Do you have paid or volunteer staff to help photograph or list your items? Do you do it yourself? I do it myself. It's just me and my husband. He likes to do the shopping part, but it is just me for all of the other parts. So I do it myself. I list 10 things a day. That is my goal, because that is my way of being consistent and the thing that is the best for me. So yeah, I don't have anybody that helps me with the back end stuff. The shopping, yes, because everyone loves the shopping. Okay, wait. How do you keep your inventory? Paper, computer, spreadsheet? I have a spreadsheet that I use. If any of you decided to follow me on any socials, I have a link in my link tree or my whatever it's called that has my spreadsheet that I use. It is Jason Hayes' spreadsheet, if you're familiar with him on socials. I love it. It works great for me. Can't recommend it enough. My gosh, this just keeps moving. I do not use Pinterest for my listings. I saw that. Are there methods to find part-time staff to help with the death pile? I am not sure about how to find staff. Maybe you could see if anyone like family or friends would want to help you to start. If your death pile is large enough, do you ever just take a bunch of items and bundle them together at a discounted price just to move it? I have never done that, but that is a possibility. Something that you could try. Don't have much advice on that. I apologize. How many hours do I work a day on average? I work when my husband works, so about 8 to 4:30. So Not all of that is on the computer doing things all the time because I have the luxury of taking a walk in the middle of the day and going shopping if I want. So, but I typically try to stick to that 9 to 5 kind of schedule. Regarding your existing inventory, it's not put up. Do you put up out of season clothes or wait until it's a season? Currently, I just put up whatever I have when I have it. So if I get a winter jacket in the summer, it's going up. I like to think of people that go on holidays in different times of the year. So people are shopping for things all of the time. And I'm also still fairly new at this. So I have only been doing this for, it'll be a year full time in May. So I'm still kind of learning, seeing how things go. But for now, I don't want to hold on to anything. So I just list it as soon as I get it. For photos, my go-to style. So I like to do flat lays on the ground. I have lights that I got from Amazon, and that's how I do it. I remove the background so I don't have to worry about that. I use a yardstick instead of tape measure because a yardstick just lays flat, where a tape measure gets a little crinkly. And I include the shoulder to hem measurement and the armpit to armpit. And that is my standard front, back, care tag, labels, all of that. That's kind of my go-to for photographing. I do not share on Twitter. How do you get started in social media without bombarding your friends with your work? Honestly, you got to. I like to think of just when you're on social media, if you're scared to do it, I don't know, just feel the fear and do it anyway. And if your friends are your friends, they'll be supportive. So I do promote my listings on eBay at 2%. I do that for everything. So I do not use social media. Can you send a link so I can use your spreadsheet? So actually, if you go onto Etsy and search, let me see if I don't have the actual link. If you search that store, Marianne, that will be the store that I get it from. I have the creator spreadsheet because I get paid from my social media, and I also plan to do Whatnot, and that's part of creator. So that is the spreadsheet that I use. He has other ones. You can use code Kendall 2024 to get 10% off. How often do you edit your listings? Maybe change price or title? Probably not as often as I should, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I will go through, if I see something or I know something that's been stale for a while, I'll go assess whether I need to update the photos. Maybe I missed something when I was listing it. Sometimes I put the wrong brand and didn't realize it, or I've just copied somebody's listing and didn't edit it correctly. So that has happened too. So just doing an audit, maybe making a schedule for yourself of when the best time to do an audit is. But when you bring home items from a thrift store, do you write on the receipt so you know specific cost of goods? I struggle with processing things and keeping track. So I'm very blessed with my Goodwill near me. So that's primarily where I shop. So I will know kind of off the bat what they price things at. But when I put them in my spreadsheet also, I include the cost of goods. So I still keep hold of all of my receipts. I have a nice file folder that I put them all in just in case. But I just kind of have an understanding. If I shop elsewhere, then I will maybe make a note in my phone, like if I'm at a thrift store I've never been to or a yard sale or something like that, just so I can know what my cost of goods were when I come to my spreadsheet in my computer. How do you save multiple listings at a time? I'm not sure I understand that question, Robin. It could just be me. Maybe if you try wording it a different way, I'll be able to answer it, but I'm not sure. How do you write off items you purchased and can't resell so you end up donating? And when do we get introduced to the cat? The cat actually left, I think. I think he's had enough. But writing off items that you purchased and can't resell. So I'm not going to be the best person to answer this. I don't have a short answer for you, unfortunately. Um, I know that there was also a Tax Act breakout room, so maybe that is something worth going back and watching whenever the recording is released. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the answer for you. Off topic, but how has showing reels on TikTok of your hauls increased your business? I do think that I have store followers that have followed my store from my TikToks just because I've had people that have shared with me that they've shopped with me, and which is really cool. And I think because I'm sharing like what I'm finding, and I have shared, this is my haul. You can expect it to be on my eBay in the next week, depending on where I'm at with my death pile. But when I share that, I think then, lets people know, they'll follow my store. They'll get notifications when I post. So I post every single day at 8 a.m., 10 things. I try to. I'm human. Sometimes I don't. So don't hold me to it. But that is my goal. And they'll get a notification that there's new stuff so they can shop what they potentially saw in a haul. I don't share everything, but I find so many cool things that I love to share it. That's like part of the fun for me. Hi, Kendall, how much time it goes into posting to social media? It depends. Sometimes it can be quick. Sometimes it can be more time consuming. I am a perfectionist to a fault, and I enjoy the editing process. And so sometimes it can make it take longer than it probably needs to. But if you're hesitant, and that's a reason that you're hesitant to post, just post. Don't even worry about if you go back and you go on my TikTok and you watch my beginning videos, I cringe because there was no editing. I was rambling. It was nothing like it is now, because obviously you get better, you evolve over time. So it could take a long time, but it doesn't have to. So that's all up to you. Why are comps so different between mobile app and desktop? Also, what is the best way to word the item I'm looking for when comping? I don't know why they are different. I do notice that sometimes myself. The best way to word the item is to get as probably granular as you can, because you want to find what it is that you're potentially wanting to buy to list. So if, you have the size, you have the label, you know what brand it is, like I would get as granular as you can. Sometimes you can find style numbers on care tags, just so that you can see if that even is out there and if people are wanting it and buying it. Mm. Who are your top 3 TikTok influencers you recommend and follow? Whenever I first started, K-Way on TikTok and Surfs Up were 2 big ones that I followed. And I primarily love menswear, and that's kind of the area that I love to shop in. So they both buy a lot of menswear. So it is nice to see brands and learn things from them. Um, those are the 2 off the top of my head. There are several that I follow, but just because they were kind of in the beginning of my journey, people that I followed. What sizes tend to sell best? I usually like to say the bigger, the better. But that's not always the case. So with everything, check comps when you're buying things. But I've also sold my fair share of extra small for men's or small for men's. So I wouldn't say if you find a good brand and it's in a small size to necessarily write it off, because there are still people out there that are size small or extra small that need clothes too. So, but I would say typically the larger size is the better, or the tall, or petite, like things that are typically a little bit more difficult for people to get if they are that size, where they will then turn to, uh, a pre-loved platform to buy their clothes. Okay, I think unless I missed stuff in chat. Reseller spreadsheet. I love the creator. If you are someone that potentially gets money from social media and or wants to do maybe whatnot and branch out to live auction selling, because those are both included in that. But if you are not, and those are not things that you want, then premium is fantastic. So Chris uses the premium spreadsheet. That is what I used before I started. Whatever. The first one I got was premium, and then this next year I got to the creator. So are there certain days, times you take off? I'm part-time and source 2 days a week, list 2 nights a week. I usually try and take off the weekend, but I also love to use the weekend to shop and go to yard sales. So it feels like I'm almost always working, but I love it. And it's the best job that I've ever had. But I do try and keep the nights off and the weekends off if I can, to make it as like normal. I work really well with structure. So I like to make it as structured as I possibly can. I don't know what time this is over, but I see more questions, so I'll just keep going. Social media is very important to e-commerce sales. How did you build your TikTok page? I just started posting hauls. That was my kind of segue into feeling comfortable. And then I realized that I really love to teach and share with people. And I believe that there are enough seats at the table. So I want to share the wealth, share the knowledge, let everyone know brands to search for, all the things. So that's kind of where my page has segued into, but I still love sharing hauls. That's my favorite thing, because the stuff I find you just would never believe sometimes. But yeah, that's how it started, and it is how, like everything, evolved. So does anyone have the link for the spreadsheet? I put it, Christina, I put it over in Q&A. I don't know if that's a way to find it. If you have social media, you can find my social media and also find me and find my links there. I am on Instagram, Love It Collectibles. I started with TikTok way longer than I started with Instagram, so I have far more content on TikTok than Instagram. So that is why my Instagram isn't as built up. But yeah, my hauls, Annie, are going to be on my TikTok, and I also post them to Instagram, but you can see further back on TikTok. Any taboos as a seller? I don't know. Sorry. How do you store your items so you can find them after they sell? I have a room in my garage that's like a storage room. I share all of my inventory, or I put all of my inventory in there in bins on shelves. I have a whole video about my inventory system on my TikTok too, if you want to check it out. All right, I think I have to wrap. So I'm going to end with this last question. We'll do, what category sells best for you? For me, I sell best with men's. I love men's product. I've shared a lot of Bolo brands on my TikTok recently, and primarily they're all men's brands. Men's is a great category to sell in. And if you are a woman and you feel uncomfortable, again, feel the fear and do it anyway, because men's sections are by far my most profitable month over month. It's always men's. So I think that's all. I think that's all the time. Thank you all so much for, I will snuggle the kitty. Thank you all for joining me.